Are you ready for adventure? For excitement? Action! Then let's dig into Diablo 4. That's right, it's finally he. Oh god, no, no, Diablo, no. Well, at least now we know where those extra $10 that they're charging us didn't go. Spinning up the bloody servers. Actually, I'm kidding. It's fine, it's fine. This is fine. So yeah, the beta could have started off better, but I am happy to report that on the second day of my playing the game, the queue was no longer present. So I guess they did spend some money on the servers after all, eventually. But better late than never, right? And once I got the game going, I have to say the experience wasn't half bad. Be forewarned though, I am a fan of Diablo 3. So, your experiences may vary, this is just my personal opinion and personal impressions of the game. Although, considering we are talking about Blizzard here, I would expect to give my final verdict on the game somewhere in September to October, since God only knows if and when they do decide to change something about the game. You know, maybe introduce an auction house or maybe some pay to win cosmetics. Who knows? I mean, it is Blizzard after all. And now let's dive into the game. As you can see, the first thing we're greeted with when we enter the game is the customization screen and character selection screen, which were very well done. I mean, I got nothing to complain about and nothing to add. I did like the expanded customization options when compared to D2 and D3, especially since we know that our character will appear in cinematics, so this is a nice little touch. For my first playthrough I went with the sorceress, since mages and wizards and sorcerers are my favorite archetype. And I gotta say I was pleasantly surprised, it did not feel that squishy at all. Actually, I dare to say it looks like one of the better classes in D4. Best defined with two words: Chain Lightning. Now, Chain Lightning was one of my favorite skills in D2, don't ask why, but I just have a thing for thunder and lightning, and I'm very happy to see it return in D4. Also, some of the fan favorite skills are there, like Hydra, Meteor, Blizzard. Another personal favorite of mine, Incinerate or Disintegrate from D3, which for some unknowable reason Blizzard decided to butcher in Diablo 3. But never mind, let's hope they do a better job here. So far most of the skills I've tried seem very good. Hydra in particular was a big surprise considering how weak it was in D3. Here it's pretty strong on its own, without much buffs being needed to do a fair amount of damage. Now, when it comes to the feel of the game, it does feel a bit slower than D3, which is honestly to be expected since we can't go into the end game, where games actually tend to ramp up with the speed. But as far as I know, the devs did state that Diablo 4 will have a slightly slower pace, which didn't honestly bother me during my time with D4, but I guess we'll see how it goes down the line. While playing, I did experience one small glitch, well, depending on your connectivity, not so small. There were times when I couldn't get in or out of the city, because I guess there was some kind of an input or output lag, I'm not really sure what the hell happened, but there was some sort of an invisible wall which after some tinkering I figured out did have something to do with the game loading in. So there was that, and I hope that this will be rectified until the 6th of June. And speaking of weird things and bugs in the game, I did find something rather strange. Within the graphics settings of the game, I couldn't set my texture resolution to high. I have no idea why. I got a buddy who also bought Diablo 4 and he also experienced the same thing. Now, comment down below if you also found this issue. I do not know if this was intended, maybe because of the devs foreseeing that it would be too much for the game to load in such highly detailed textures, but I guess that's also another mystery that will just have to wait to be solved. Next on the list we have the map. As far as you can expect, it's pretty much the same thing from any other ARPG. I mean, you have the minimap, you have the full map. You can actually set a waypoint now, which is a good one from Blizzard, with the one remaining issue left being why, oh why, dear Blizzard, why can't I open the map screen overlay and see the full map while controlling my character? PoE did it a decade ago, you know, when D3 came out. Why can't you? Why don't you love me? But I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself because I'm just such a nice guy. Couch co-op and offline mode. I need those, badly. And I don't think I'm the only one who would like to see those additions. Couch co-op on PC is not far from possible anymore. It was actually never impossible, but especially these days when we have controllers, when we can have multiple inputs on our PCs and so on and so forth. If consoles can have it, PC can too. There should be no reason that my girlfriend and I need to buy 2 copies of the game when we can both play at the same account together. And even if we both need to buy a copy of the game, still there should be no reason couch co-op should be out of question. But as far as any other issues go, I've gotta say I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't experience any other problems or issues or glitches. It's been a pretty fun ride, I have to say. Mind you, we are still in the beta testing phase, and of course, Blizzard being Blizzard, I have to say this again, things are subject to change. I mean, Diablo Immortal had pretty positive feedback from what I recall from many YouTubers and streamers, but in the end we all know how that ended up with the full game release. Now, as I said, I am a big fan of Diablo 3. I think the game as it is right now is in the best shape it ever was. And yeah, I'll give you that doesn't say a lot considering how little support it actually got over the years, especially when compared to the likes of Path of Exile. But I gotta say, I do still have fun playing Seasons, and I think the Seasons actually got better once D4 was announced. Probably the teams got inspired, and I'm just guessing here, maybe some ideas got transferred from D4 into D3, which made the game much better. I like the reworked sets, the new season themes and all that, and I have seen that a lot of people have complained how D4 reminds them of D3, but honestly, and this is once again my own opinion, nobody else's, I like that. I like that there are good things from D3 that crossed over into D4, like the transmog system. The transmog system in D4, I feel safe to say, is better in D4. Also the skills, the good skills, the useful skills from D3 crossed over for the most part. There are also skills from D2, which is also great. But I also want to say that I would like to see Blizzard innovate a little bit. Give us at least 1 or 2 new skills that we haven't seen until now. I mean, it's all well and good. I'm not complaining, but I would like to see some more innovation in this department. All the skills I've seen for the Sorceress and for the Rogue, since those are the 2 classes I've played so far, I'm familiar with them. Rogue is basically Demon Hunter from D3, but it also actually has some melee skills, which I've got nothing against. Again, I would just like to see some more innovation. But who knows, maybe the new uniques, which will be introduced in the late game, are game-changing. They will completely alter your playstyle, which is of course something that fans of D3 have always been complaining about, and I would have to say rightly so. Because I don't mind having sets in the game, which will also be introduced in Diablo 4 at some later point after the release of the game. I honestly have nothing against them, it's just that they make uniques almost worthless unless they are supplementing the sets. which is what killed the build diversity in D3. While here, we will of course have a completely different story, with the uniques being the top tier, like the toppest top that ever topped, from what I understand. Visually, the game looks great. I have almost no complaints, except, once again, as a Diablo 3 fan, I actually preferred the cartoony graphics. And I'll give you the reason why. I prefer them because they're timeless. You know, as years go on, games start to look older, they start to look a bit worn out. You know, for example, try to remember some old game that you really liked. For example, Tomb Raider, the original game. I bet you remember it far prettier than it actually is. Try and load up that old Tomb Raider game and see just how bad it looks. And so visually, I think that Diablo 3 did have a slightly upper hand, since it will always look decent, it will always look enough. D4, on the other hand, while it does look really good, and I do know that most players do prefer the darker aesthetic, goes for realism. And the problem with realism, well, it's never realistic enough, is it? So, as graphics go on developing, I bet you Diablo 4 will at a certain point start looking outdated. So it will either be up to Blizzard to update the graphics from time to time, or up to the modders if we ever, well, get an offline version of the game. Which brings me to another point, offline mode. Remember the start of this video? With the queue? Why? Again, just why? Why not let us have an offline mode? Bolson did it, Last Epoch does it. Even Blizzard themselves have done it with Diablo 2 Resurrected. So we know that it is within the realm of possibility. I mean, we do have the technology, it is the 21st century after all. It's not the 20th century, where apparently every game was always online, and now we have technical difficulties making them offline still, according to Blizzard and their actions. So why not? Why the hell not? Just give us an offline mode. I want to be able to play while I'm off at work and not doing my actual work. I hope my boss never sees this. Or, you know, sometimes you come home feeling tired and broken after a hard day at work. The wife doesn't like you, the kids are too noisy, the TV is broken. You don't know what to do, so you say to yourself, hey, I know, I'm gonna go and play me some Diablo 4. And then you ramp up the game only to be greeted by the queue, or internet connectivity issues, or server instabilities, or you know, all those wonderful things that we have gotten so used to in the 2010s, 2020s, and which will continue to plague us to infinity, I guess. So why not? It would be a nice addition, we would be forever grateful, and you can always do what was done with Last Epoch. For example, separate the accounts. Treat characters separately. Offline mode stays offline. Whatever happens offline stays offline. Whatever people do there is their own business, nobody else's, they can't interfere, done and done. And why am I saying this? Because of course I am a reasonable person, and I do figure that most people will probably try to change the game in some way. Cheat, give themselves hacked items, mod the game in some ways. And you know what? It's a single player experience, it's offline mode. Do whatever the hell you want, nobody cares. And everybody's happy, everybody wins. It's so simple and makes for a great quality of life improvement. So if you're like me and you would like to see an offline mode in Diablo 4, please put a comment down below. And what I did like is the fact that Blizzard does seem to keep with some traditions, like death animations. The NPCs still have unique death animations depending on what class you're using and what skills that class is using to destroy the enemies, which is once again something that I have criticized Path of Exile for. in the past. I really love to see this. When you shoot an arrow into a bear, you can see the wounds on it becoming more and more visible. When you burn the bear using incinerate or when you hit it with lightning, the damage looks different on the enemy. This is something I really love, it gives it that personal touch. The skills really feel as if they're being actually used and applied against your enemies, unlike some other games. Overall, I have to say that the Diablo 4 beta access has left a pretty positive impression on me, but I do not feel comfortable still recommending anyone buying the game, because once again it is Blizzard, and I suggest you wait until the final release day and see if the game is actually worth getting. Of course, if you do feel the need or you have that little extra cash in your pocket, feel free to do whatever the hell you want. Once again, I'm not your dad, can't tell you what to do. I can only give my opinions to anyone who listens. If you liked the video, please like, share and subscribe, you know, the usual stuff. And drop a comment down below giving me your impressions and opinions about D4. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What do you think about Diablo 3 and 4? Until next time, see ya!